Hey everybody, it's Tommy with Better Time, and the last time we spoke, I was jetting to the door. It's kind of in a bit of a hurry because I've been waiting on this watch. We bought this at auction. It was an auction in one of the Carolinas, but this was owned by a man named Warner DeWitt. He was was born in 1898 and lived a really, really long life. I can't remember when he died, but it was fairly recently in terms of when you consider he was born in 1898. But he served in two different consulates in the course of his life, and this was his watch. This, people, is a 1958 Omega Constellation, reference number 28871C. Now, when you get to reference numbers with Omega, the C stands for secondhand in the center, right? So, but all of those things signify the case size. This is a 505, which is one of their automatic movements, and we ran the serial dated to 1958, which is really cool because they told us it was going to be in the 60s. They also said it was going to be a bumper movement. Bumper movements are great. People dig them, but from a guy that actually works on watches, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I am a huge fan. I take that back. I love the bumper movement, but I love the bumper movement for its historic relevance and its charm. You feel it click on the wrist. But in terms of keeping better time and being a really solid movement, anytime you get the rotor, the weight that travels a full 360 degrees, obviously it's a better engineering design, and the 505 is a great movement. Now, this is in two-tone, so it has gold and stainless steel. Now, they did not plate this, right? That is not what they did with this. What they do is, it is a gold cap, and it is a substantial amount of gold that they wrap around the metal. So it's very similar to when you see an 18 karat bezel or a 14 karat bezel, where the bezel itself is a solid piece of gold. Obviously, it doesn't go completely through the watch. It's a cap of gold that sits on top of stainless steel. Well, that is how they did this. This is a two-tone, so the gold cap goes all the way onto the lugs, and it's a ton of gold. The really nice thing about these is that very, very infrequently do you see that wear off, unless the watch was just beat on, and or sometimes if it has a metal band that's just rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. But Omega went really thick in it, and this is a perfect illustration of that because this watch, people, is 74 years old. It is a officially certified Swiss chronometer, which means that the Constellation building that you will see right there, that's the observatory, that is where that certification process actually takes place, and you will see 8 stars on that. That is also gold, by the way. That 8 stars that you see above the Constellation refers to awards won by Omega, and very cool that that symbol is there. Sometimes you see those things disappear. Sometimes the that little gold seal will pop out. I've seen it pop out on two-tone, and I've seen it pop out on gold, honestly, or wear away. But this one, for 74 years, is just in great shape. This watch overall is really, really beautiful. So far, the only thing that I have done to it is to hand polish the crystal, which was, I mean, abysmal. There were really a lot of scratching on the crystal. But the nice thing about those, the really old plexi, is that they're very, very easy to buff out. I don't use a machine to do it because it's super easy to get carried away. I do it with just a little bit of super, super fine abrasive in a cream, and then take a microfiber cloth and just spend about an hour with your thumb going in circles. People, that doesn't work on glass. I've had people email me. By the way, the email address is abettertime.com abettertime.llc@gmail.com. abettertime.llc@gmail.com. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, this is not in the store yet, people. And the reason it's not, obviously it's ready to roll, right? It looks like it could go, but I haven't had a go at the engine, right? I have not started to make sure that this movement is going to do what we tell you it's going to do. There are times where we're going to pass on a watch and we are not going to have serviced the movement, you know, to make sure that the thing is keeping time. If it's one of those watches that we just don't want to mess with, if it's a specific type of movement, something that I'm not comfortable with, we pass that on. But we will always tell you that, and we will also you know, always tell you what kind of time the device is keeping. So on this one, I can't tell you yet because we just got it. I mean, this baby was on the truck, the FedEx truck coming in 2 hours ago. And anytime you buy anything at an auction, there's always a bit of a stress period. This is a perfect example because I love the patina on the dial. I mean, that is just awesome, people. It really is just starting to go, you know, tropic on us. It's getting that tropical appearance, and I love that. But when we were bidding on it, it had one picture, and the picture was awful. And part of the name Constellation looked as if it had worn off the dial. And for that reason, I think there were people that probably didn't bid on that because of it. But when I was talking to my partner, I said, you know what, that just might be the crystal we're looking at, because they make a really hardy dial. You know, the Piepans tend to be really tough. Fortunately, it's exactly what it was. So when we got it, I looked and went, oh boy. You know, as I started to tip this thing, I could see that Constellation, everything on the dial is completely intact. All of the writing is perfect. Officially certified Swiss chronometer, 74 years old. Still doing what it's supposed to be doing. Boy, people, and I'll tell you what, if you're a vintage guy, then you can agree or you can disagree with me, but I think the 50s were just some of the greatest designs ever that came out in watches, came out in the 50s. And the DNA on the Constellation is something that it's Gerald Genta had a hand in this. That's the same guy that brought you the Royal Oak. Just a guy that had really kind of had the hang of designing watches that were to become really, really iconic. You've seen us talk about a lot of different Omegas. We've got Seamasters, Seamaster DeVilles. We've got a whole horde of Seamasters in different configurations. This, however, is the top of the food chain. This is the Constellation, and it is a Constellation with a Piepan dial. Now, there will be some photos up in the store before too long, and at that point, we will also list a price on it. Got to do a lot of research because the 28871C in two-tone, I'm not finding. I'm really not finding a 1958 with a 505. I have found one in stainless steel, but you know, that may be a rarity, so to look at the price that they're charging on that may not be reflective of you know, of the market. So we're gonna have to do a lot more research. If you can't wait, you can always email me, and we'll see if we can't strike a deal. But the day is coming where this will be on the store for sale. Boy, I love the Piepan dial. You know, we talk often, you'll hear me say it is a Piepan-like dial, because a lot of watches, you know, did similar things where you have that inner, you know, sort of circular deal, and then you've got the you know, the outside that looks a little different. But that scalloping, that real unique, that it really looks like a Piepan, is just so uniquely Omega. Although, if you're super into Swiss retro, Swiss vintage, then you probably will send me an email and say, you do know that Rolex did a Piepan dial, and they did. There is a day date, an Oyster Perpetual day date that had a Piepan dial, but I don't think anybody did it quite like Omega. Give you one last look at this, peeps. Look at that, huh? And that patina is just incredible. That is just gorgeous. But I kind of like to put that thing on. Alrighty, I am Tommy with a better time. That was a 1958 Omega Constellation, reference 2887, 1C in gold and stainless, with a Piepan dial and a 505 movement. That is just a little slice of heaven right there. I will see you on the next watch. God bless.